Good afternoon and welcome to this Wednesday, November 14th edition of Westman Newsline. I'm Dylan Donald alongside Randy Joseph Lilly and Jordan Olson. In today's news, we'll bring you the latest chapter in City Hall's potential mayor-councilor slugfest and let you know about a chance to participate in telling the city what to do with your tax dollars. And Randy will be in with sports. Randy, I understand there was a huge trade in Major League Baseball.
You can say that again. Or don't. Alex Anthopoulos is putting his job on the line. The Toronto Blue Jays are making a huge statement, and now they're among the favorites in the American League. Perhaps even more shocking, the Raptors won last night. I'll have that and more later on in sports.
Thanks, Randy. And Jordan will be in with weather. Jordan, it was cold this morning, and I know it's winter, and it is November, but I'm ready for a heat wave. Is there any chance there's one in the making?
Well, Dylan, not exactly a heat wave, but temperatures are certainly going to improve over the next little while. Come tomorrow, the sun is expected to shine, and daytime highs will be on the rise. Currently in the Wheat City, it's -11, but it's foggy out there, so be careful if you're heading out on those highways. I'll be back with all your weather details later on in the show.
Thanks, Jordan. The mayor of Brandon has apologized for threatening to slap a city councillor last week. Mayor Sherry Decter-Hurst responded to comments made by Councillor Stephen Montague by telling him during a meeting that if he repeated them, she would slap him on the back of his head so hard his head would spin. Yesterday, Decter-Hurst said she had apologized to Montague in front of other councillors for her aggressive verbal behavior. She said Montague accepted her apology. In further City Council news, councillors are welcoming citizens to a roundtable discussion where they can share their ideas about how the city should use taxpayers' money. That follows on the heels of the community's vocal displeasure about the tax raise last year. Items on the agenda for the November 22nd meeting are the 18th Street Bridge, infrastructure, and negotiations with the police and fire departments. The meeting, which begins at 7:30, will be held in the New Era School Gymnasium. Old Man Winter found his way to Westman area over the weekend, but his welcome was not so warm. Westman Newsline's Colton Yarch came out of hibernation to file this report.
Brandon and Westman area was hit with a severe snowstorm over the weekend, and crews are still trying to clean up roads and parking lots. But members of the community are more worried about the sidewalks and say crews need to be quicker to have them cleared off for public use.
Often the sidewalks are the last to get cleaned away, and I'm concerned about there's a lot of seniors downtown, a lot of handicapped people downtown, and I'm really concerned about them trying to get around.
Even though winter is a familiar thing in southwestern Manitoba, drivers still have to adjust to the changing conditions. Something that can be done as easily as driving more defensive.
Slow down for one thing, and two, give yourself a lot of distance between the vehicle in front of you. Unfortunately, if you do start sliding, if you give yourself enough stopping distance, you should be able to avoid a rear-ender.
Despite the city cutting the night shift for road cleanup crews, city workers have done a good job cleaning up the roads as quickly as possible. As always, there's pros and cons with the snowstorm, and this one that hit Westman this past weekend was no exception. But with the warm temperatures expected in the coming days, the snow might not stick around much longer. For Westman Newsline with photographer Nolan Windsor, I'm Colton Yarch.
A 17-year-old Brandon teen has been sentenced to 6 months in jail, followed by 3 months of community supervision and then 18 months probation for his role in an aggressive robbery on September 1st. Police say the teen, who is associated with the Manitoba Warriors street gang, was with 2 other gang members on the night of the attack when they robbed a couple and tried to take the male's headphones. The man refused to give up his earbuds and was assaulted by the trio. The attack resulting in a chipped tooth, black eyes, cuts, and chipped and impacted tooths. The crew fled after the victim's girlfriend gave them her cell phone, but were later caught by police. The teen was released on special order to keep his curfew time of 10 p.m., but got into a fight with a rival gang member at Crocus Plains High School on September the 13th. The next day, Judge Shauna Hewitt-Michta charged the teen with 2 counts of theft, public disturbance, and breaching curfew. The other 2 suspects are still facing charges. Overburdened social workers will be the focus of testimony when a public inquiry resumes into the death of a little girl who fell through the cracks in Manitoba's child welfare system. The probe into the death of Phoenix Sinclair resumes this morning after a 2-month delay caused by legal wrangling over witness interviews. Phoenix was killed by her mother and the mother's boyfriend in 2005 at the age of 5 after she was removed from a foster home and returned to her mother. The inquiry is looking at why Phoenix was given back to her family, why caseworkers closed her file, and why her death went unnoticed for 9 months. Federal, provincial, and municipal government officials were on hand to announce plans for the expansion of the Winnipeg Convention Centre. The expansion includes a new addition as well as upgrades to existing structural and electrical elements. Design images were also unveiled for the project. Construction is slated to begin on the centre before the end of this year. The expansion is expected to open in late 2015 and cost more than $180 million. And speaking of millions of dollars, let's take a look at where today's money markets are currently sitting.
You're watching Westman Newsline, produced by the media production students of Assiniboine Community College. Local news, weather, and sports only on Westman Newsline, airing on WCG-TV at 1 p.m. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Protesters in Jordan have often lambasted parliamentarians, cursed the Prime Minister, and called for the government to go. But they never speak out against their king. However, Tuesday night, they did, rudely and loudly, warning him to beware the fate other leaders in the region have faced. This refrain has been the calling card of the Arab Spring. In this case, a government price hike triggered the demonstrations. The price of unleaded gas jumped 45 cents a gallon, while the price of diesel fuel rose 90 cents. Cooking gas prices jumped from just over $9 per canister to more than $14. The increased gas prices come on top of high unemployment and inflation. Toyota's declines are linked to another product recall. The Japanese car maker announced a global recall of its Prius and Corolla models from certain years. But which models are affected and what is the problem? CNN's Alex Zolbert reports from Tokyo.
Another recall from Toyota, the second one in as many months. It's about 2.8 million vehicles being recalled this time, about 1.5 million here in Japan, more than 650,000 in the U.S., and the remainder of those in Europe. We're still getting details on this. It involves the second generation Prius, as well as several different Corolla models. According to Toyota, the problem is with the extension shafts in the steering. They also want to take a look at water pumps in some of the hybrid vehicles. And again, the second recall in as many months. Just in October, we had a recall of more than 7 million vehicles. And then if you go back to 2009 and 2010, there was a massive recall, more than 8 million vehicles involving acceleration problems, a very serious problem for Toyota vehicles. So when you add it all up, going back to 2009, this puts the number, take a listen, it's quite staggering, more than 18 million vehicles recalled by Toyota going back to 2009. And this doesn't even take into account things like the rising yen, the strong yen that has been hitting Toyota hard, as well as the tsunami that hit Toyota hard in March of 2011 and the months that followed. And then, of course, there were the floods in Thailand last year, around this time last year, that also hit Toyota. So the company simply cannot catch a break. And keep in mind, as a car manufacturer, you only get one reputation, and this is not doing good things for Toyotas right now.
Later today, the U.S. president will talk about the economy and his country's deficit with some high-profile chief executives at the White House, including the CEOs of General Electric, Ford, Walmart, and Dow. On Friday, Obama is expected to take a hard line with congressional Republicans, calling for $1.6 trillion in additional tax revenue over the next 10 years. The negotiations are part of what's known as the fiscal cliff. But what does that term mean? CNN's Jonathan Mann explains.
I'm Jonathan Mann with another political jargon buster. What is the fiscal cliff? It's shorthand for the potential economic disaster that's facing Washington. In real terms, it's the $7 trillion in spending cuts and tax increases scheduled to go into effect at the beginning of January. The President and members of Congress set the deadline themselves last year after they failed to agree on how to reduce the U.S. debt. Now, time is almost up. Democrats and Republicans remain far apart on a deal that would reduce the deficit, reform the tax system, and U.S. entitlement programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Analysts warn if there's no agreement, it could cripple the U.S. economy and drive up unemployment. Will the political standoff turn into an economic disaster? U.S. politicians hope to avoid running off the fiscal cliff.
That's it for news, but stick around. Jordan's up next with Newsline weather.
Good afternoon with Newsline weather. I'm Jordan Olson. It was certainly a bit chilly this morning, but the temperature is expected to rise substantially this afternoon. Hopefully the sun will come out and help warm things up, which means we'll likely be going into the weekend around the 0 mark. Currently in the Wheat City, it's -11 with fog, so take extra care if you're heading out on those roads around the area. Winds are out of the south-southwest, and we're sitting at a 20% chance of precipitation. By the evening time rolls around, the temperature should make its way back up to -3. We'll have a few clouds, wind will be west at 20 kilometers, and there's only a 10% chance of precipitation. Overnight, the temperature will drop back down to -10, and the clouds should disappear. The winds will change direction to northwest and at 20 kilometers, and the probability of precipitation will remain the same at 10%. Turning to our radar image now, you'll see that there are no precipitation cells anywhere near our area, so we should enjoy sunny skies for the next few days at least. More on that in a moment. Looking now at our satellite image, what cloud there is over there will be very thin, and expected sunshine should burn that off in no time. And that means there should be no cloud cover for the Westman area until, ironically, Sunday, when there will be any sun. Taking a look at our 5-day forecast now, as I mentioned a minute ago, things should be staying fairly consistent over the next few days. Tomorrow expect sunshine and a high of -7 and a low of -12. Wind will be out of the west at 10 kilometers Friday. The sun will remain, and it's even warming up a bit in time for the weekend. We should enjoy a high of -1 and a low of -10. Winds will pick up a bit to 20 kilometers out of the south. Saturday it should be sunny with a few clouds remaining and a low of -3 and a low of -12. Sunday the clouds return, but the gloom will come with a jump in temperature to +3. The low will be -9 with next to no wind. On Monday we'll be back to a sunny sky. The high will be +1 and a low of -7. Taking a look around the region for this hour, Winnipeg is in at -7, Port Perry is in at -11, and same with Dauphin in at -11. Neepawa is in at -8, Carberry and Killarney are both in at -5, Minnedosa is in at -11, and Vernon rounds us out at -8. Seasonal norms for this date are a high of -2 and a low of -10. The record high for this date was a pleasant 13.3 set back in 1941. The record low was a miserable -26.7 set back in 1959. Once again in Brandon, it's a -11 with fog, winds out of the south-southwest, and there's a 20% chance of precipitation. That's it for weather, but stay tuned. Randy's up next with Newsline Sports.
Good afternoon. With Newsline Sports, I'm Randy Joseph Lilly. The Toronto Blue Jays and Miami Marlins have apparently agreed to a blockbuster deal. Shortstop Jose Reyes, pitchers Josh Johnson and Mark Buehler, catcher John Buck, and fielder Emilio Bonifacio would be coming to Toronto. The Blue Jays would be sending away controversial shortstop Yunel Escobar, right-hander Henderson Alvarez, catcher Jeff Mathis, and 4 more prospects. This will be the first time Toronto has started the season with more than $100 million in payroll. It's clear Jose Calderon believes he can be a starting point guard in this league again, as he put up a triple-double in the Raptors' 74-72 win over Indiana. His 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists led the way as the Raptors snapped their losing streak. In the second half, the Raptors were struggling offensively, only getting 28 points on 18% shooting, but their 29th-ranked defense was able to make the difference. Davey Johnson is the National League's Manager of the Year. The 69-year-old guided the Washington Nationals to the best record in the major leagues in 2012. Oakland's Bob Melvin was voted AL Manager of the Year. Under Melvin, the A's made a 20-game improvement, finished 94-68, and won the AL West. And Dylan, that's it for sports.
Thanks, Randy. Since many of our classmates will be in Shiloh tomorrow for a field exercise with the Canadian Armed Forces, our broadcast will be preempted. But be sure to join us again next Tuesday for Brandon's only TV newscast, Westman Newsline.